I've told them and they know why, but it's not getting done. Well, then you've told them and they know, but they don't in their heart know why, right? The why is not sold. So my job is to then resell why we're doing it. And then the only way they're going to start doing it consistently is if they buy the why.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? And this is Jason Harris, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Golden Wrench Podcast, where I get to talk to anybody and everybody I want to talk to when it comes to the fixed ops industry. And I love the fixed ops industry, and I really do. And I know the guest that we had today also has a huge passion for that side of the business, and I'm super excited to introduce you to him. But hey, we are only able to do great shows like this is because of our great sponsors. So we're going to take one moment, and here's a quick message from our sponsor.
For years, I've been saying that you have to process your way to profitability, and no one knows that better than the folks at Repair 360. You all know how important it is to have a fast, streamlined used car reconditioning process. Remember, time kills profit. Getting a used car frontline ready in less time while providing transparent communication between departments is what Repair 360 is all about. With Repair 360's automated used car recon manager, you will drive recon times down while giving sales the visibility they need to stop complaining. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding about that part. Anyways, you have to check out their website at repair360.com and see how they can revolutionize your reconditioning process.
All right, guys, today I have the one, the only, the oh so famous Mr. David Long with me. David,
I don't know that I've gotten that kind of introduction ever, Jason. So thank you. It's really good to be here with you.
Hey, man, I am so glad that we got a chance to connect and do this. I actually feel like we've kind of like crossed paths like in passing, I think, for years, but it's like we never just really kind of sat down and jammed about stuff. So I am super, super excited to get into it. And man, you have some great topics. But hey, what I'd like to do to kick off this podcast real quick, David, is for like the 13 people out there that don't know who you are. Let's kick it off with a little origin story. Because I'm always fascinated myself. How did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Oh, Jason, it's so long ago. My memory doesn't serve me like it used to, but it's been 38 years. Wow. Think about this. I'm 2,053 days away from retirement. Yes, I am counting down the days, not because I don't love the industry, but because that's where the finish line is. And retirement for me will have a whole different meaning. But I started in 1984 at my brother's lot in Detail. Mm-hmm. And, I would like to say I fell in love with the business, but really it was the last house on the block for me. I wasn't going to college. I did not have a real future plan. So I thought, let me try to clean some cars and let me try to sell some cars. And let's see what I can do here. And I stunk. I was not ideally suited for this industry whatsoever. And I will tell you that I did not get any style points in my first probably decade of doing this. So that was how I started, Jason.
Man, I love it, and I'm glad that, you decided to start washing some cars and made your way into the business. You know what, though, that's the cool thing about this business, right, David? I mean, I've heard you talk about this actually on some of your clubhouses in the past. It's like everybody from any type of background or path in life, it's like you can have an MBA or barely graduated through high school, and there's just that's the industry. This is an industry where if you just grind and you hustle, all right, you can really make something of yourself. And the cool thing, it's still like that, even though the both of us have been in the industry for a super long time. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I could not agree more. That's the neat thing that I say to the people that I'm hiring. I have a group of dealers that I run, and I have 15 dealers that I consult for. Wow. And I don't believe you have to be the smartest one in the room. I believe you have to be the most consistent one in the room. So I totally agree.
Actually, you know what? I know this wasn't on our topic, but I'm going to ask you anyways because I'm kind of just curious. For I don't get a chance to talk to someone with such a tremendous amount of experience in the automotive industry. For anybody out there watching listings right now, and maybe are thinking about getting into the business, what advice would you share with them?
Go all in.
Yeah,
That's my advice. Because I have the vantage point of 38 years of seeing people make it, seeing other people not make it. I think the one common thread between the ones that make it and the ones that don't is the ones that made it went all in. The ones that didn't thought, well, let me give it a try. Let me see if I'm cut out for this. And they didn't burn the ships. They just put their toe in the water, and I've never seen it work that way personally.
no, you're absolutely right. Like when I got into the car business, I was actually on a bet. That's actually how I got into the business. My roommate was working at a car dealership
Did
selling.
you win the bet or lose the bet?
I did. I won it. I totally did. I totally won it. But I had this roommate, and he was working at a car dealership. And one day we were sitting around, and I saw his pay stub, and I said, "What the hell is this?" And I'm like, he's like, "Well, that's how much I made in commission last week." And I'm like, "You're a complete moron. That's not possible." Like, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you think you could do better?" I said, "I don't think I know I could do better. I'll bet you $1,000 of that money that you can't beat me within the first month." And I said, "You're on." Now, David, you're gonna get a kick out of this because he conned me too. All right. Of course, like most people, I signed up for like that, that free 2-week training, which is like you work for 2 weeks, but you don't get paid for it. Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm in a boiler room, right? There's 27 people. They're like, we're only hiring 3. And you're like looking around going, and 5 people walk out of the room already, and they're like, no, naked, right? But little did I know, he actually, if I stayed and got hired on, he got a $1,500 bonus for that. So I got bet, I got con. That's how I got into the business.
Well, did you beat him?
Oh, dude, of course I did, 100%.
But he still made $500.
He did. He made $500, but I'll tell you what, within 90 days, he was gone, and I was on the top of that leaderboard, and I never got off that leaderboard, the top of that leaderboard. It was in my blood. It got into it. I just like, this is what I was meant to do.
Yes.
Well, hey, I know. Look, this is what happens. Everyone out there, if you're watching, listening, when 2 car guys get together, we just totally go off script, and we'll just find all kinds of things to talk about. But here, let's get into. You got some really cool fixed ops topics. First one, we're going to talk about the drive-through, the walk around process, getting consistent about it. I know it's been a water cooler topic for you, so I'll let you go ahead and kind of take it away from there.
So what I noticed, not just with the dealers I consult for, but like I'm sitting right here, you can't see it, but to my left is my service lane for one of the stores, and I can see my BMW store from here. So I can see when a car pulls up, what happens at the car. And I really believe success in a service department, and anybody that's watching this would agree, is what happens at that car, right, with the customer. Mm-hmm. And all too often I see an advisor walking the car without the customer. And I think that's like, I don't have much hair, but I think that's the equivalent of mailing a haircut. Like, I don't think it ever truly gets there. I think the job starts and really ends at the walk around with consistency with the customer at the car. Like, yes. It would be very similar to me on the sales side, thinking that we're going to sell a lot of cars with just tossing keys at a customer and saying, it's back on the back lot, and I think it's the 3rd row, and expecting to have great sales results. I think the success of a service conversion, service success, comes from consistency at the car with the customer, other than night drops.
Well, and the key to it is it builds rapport, right? Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, you're taking that time, a process time, all right, to actually connect with the person and build a little rapport with them. I mean, look, my doctor doesn't just walk into the office, look at the sheet, and go, "Yep, surgery. That's what we're doing." that's. I'm like, what? Typically, how you doing? How's the mother? How's the kids? Yeah. They build a little rapport, all right, and then they're like, "Okay, so tell me about what's going on." Yeah, mm-hmm. How does that feel? What does it sound like? Oh, it sounds like that. So like, but yeah, you're so right. If we miss or we choose to not take that step, then there's no rapport, and we immediately go into them and tell them it's going to be a $2,500 surgery. No surprise that they're like, what? So, I'm curious from you. Staying consistent is one of the hardest things I think for anybody out there to do. I mean, I know personally myself. I mean, look, I don't diets. Come on, seriously, consistently. No, I'm just kidding. But how do we maintain that mindset of consistency, David?
I think it's the inspecting what we're expecting. I think anybody that I'm coaching, I always talk about a sale needs to be made, right? Obviously, if somebody's not doing it, they don't see the value, and they don't know it's a requirement, not a suggestion, but a requirement. So I would have to peel back the onion and find out what in that service manager's mind is preventing it from being important enough for him or her to manage that gets done all the time. And then beyond that, what is it in the advisor's mind that makes them think that it's going to make their job easier and take less time to not do that? Because it makes their job harder and it takes more time if you don't do that. So I think the sale that needs to be made, I need, as the general manager, need to sell my fixed ops director that this is why, not what. The why matters. And then I need to sell my managers, this is the why, not necessarily only the what. And then the managers and I need to sell the narrative to the advisor that the reason this is getting done isn't because we want to be hard. It's not because we want to have structure that doesn't create a good result. It's because this is what creates the good result that makes the job easier and you more efficient. And I think if that sale doesn't get made and we just stand on the moral high ground and say, we're doing this because I said so, gosh darn it, I don't think that sustains itself. Does that resonate with you, Jason?
No, it does. And, so I was a service manager. I actually worked almost every role inside of a dealership and ultimately had the opportunity to own a couple. But, no one told me or taught me how to be a leader once I became a manager. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I honestly, David, I'm the first one to admit there was literally no empathy in me. I had no emotional intelligence of any kind. I just watched what the outgoing manager did and did the same thing that he did, which was shut the hell up and get back to work. I never focused on. I thought it was just you just had to walk around with a stick and make sure people were doing their job. But what you're saying is like no, you need to understand their why so you can connect to your why. Can you elaborate a little bit more actually on that? Because I think that's a really cool, I think everybody wants to do that, but everyone I think struggles to do that because it's so much easier to say shut the hell up and go back to work.
Yeah, so I think most of us, and by the way, I don't think leaders are born.
I agree.
I think leaders are created and made through forging a lot of pain. Like I learned all my parenting on how not to parent from my parents. I learned all how I wanted to lead by the people that led me in a way that I didn't want to be managed or led. So what I mean by that is the sale that's being made, the why we're doing the what is the most important piece. So when I hear managers say, well, I've told them what we're doing and I've shared with them why we need to do it, the sale wasn't made. It'd be very similar to putting a customer that you think bought a car into the finance office and having them leave without signing the paperwork. You thought the sale was made, but the sale's not made until what? Until they sign and take physical delivery. So if you're saying with your mouth, like I've told them and they know why, but it's not getting done, well, then you've told them and they know, but they don't in their heart know why. Right? The why is not sold. So my job is to then resell why we're doing it. And then the only way they're going to start doing it consistently is if they buy the why.
Yes, there we go.
If they didn't buy the why, which is the case when you look up and like, man, there's another walk around without the customer. The customer's over here in the lounge, the car's here, and the advisor's walking the car. The why wasn't sold. So until I sell the why, I won't get the buy-in, and then the activities won't take place the way we expect them to.
Well, no, and I think you're right because that's that transition from going to a good idea to becoming really kind of an expectation. And speaking of expectations, this is one thing that I've kind of struggled with, and I'm kind of curious in your thoughts as well. And it seems to be very, very apparent in our industry. is a complete lack of documented processes. Now, no, don't get me wrong. There are some amazing operators out there, and they're probably listening to this because they're amazing operators. But, but you know what I mean, right? Like, I don't know about you. I would curious to see what you think is the percentage of dealers out there that actually have a playbook on how to execute such an important process.
Probably 5 or 10%, I would say. I wouldn't say there's many.
Yeah.
So, like when I'm coaching a store, what I recommend is that we get buy-in, right? Meaning everybody has a voice, and sometimes they even have a vote, right? So you have collaboration then. And at that point, once there's full agreement and people are not just saying yes with their mouth, but they agree that this is the way we're going to operate our business, then it needs to be what? In writing.
Yes.
And then after that, step 3 is there needs to be a cadence of accountability that keeps people focused on what we agreed to that we put in writing in the first place.
Yes.
And then the 4th thing, there needs to be a compelling scorecard. Like, I can't just talk about it and expect that it's going to get done. I have to 1, get buy-in and agreement, 2, put it in writing, 3, have a ridiculous cadence of accountability, and 4, create a compelling scorecard that help people know who's doing it and who's not. Like, I don't know any other way to get anything into my company than that 4-step process.
No, you're right. I mean, look, we are a industry of people, process, and technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I typically find when we're not able to execute something as important as that walk around, it's because one of those 3 things are typically not in alignment, right? Either we've loosely defined the process and we never document it. We didn't train the people and, sell it the why of it, right? And then to your point, if we don't have some way to measure the effectiveness of it, we have to go through it. But I'm saying what this all requires is intentionality. Like, this is going to happen on your own, guys. Like, it is such an important aspect of the business to nail this down because it builds that rapport. It's that first impression, right? If you guys are nailing this, then the reason you're not nailing it is because you're not being intentional about it. Love to get your thoughts.
And I think intentionality needs to be coupled with consistency, because I could be really intentional today and a week from now and a month from then, and very intentional doesn't produce consistent results. Consistent intentionality produces consistent results. So I'm the CRO. Do you know what the CRO is?
Yeah, Chief Revenue Officer?
No, Chief Repeating Officer.
Okay,
so I have 3 coaches, and I spend a lot of money on coaches. So these 3 coaches, one of them tells me add a 0. His whole thing is add a 0. Do you know what I mean when I say add a 0?
Yes.
So, and I'll just, in case somebody else isn't familiar. So if I think I need to repeat it as the CRO 10 times for the message to stick, I need to add a 0 and have it be 100. It's just how it goes. Like, that's the thing that excites me the most about it. It's like the owl. You're probably too young to remember this, but in the Charms Blow Pop, he's trying to get to the Tootsie Roll center.
How many licks, right?
But every lick, he's as excited as the first lick. Like, he doesn't start eventually going, right? Like, he's like, oh, I'm going to get this. I know there's a Tootsie Roll in there somewhere. So I don't know, as the CRO, do I have to do 7 licks? Do I have to do 700 licks? All I know is I haven't gotten to the Tootsie Roll until what?
Until you lick your way through it.
Taste the damn Tootsie Roll.
That's right.
Tasting the Tootsie Roll is seeing that what we've talked about and what we agreed to and what we have buy-in and what's in writing is actually getting executed on. Because that is the demise of most dealers today. The dealer goes to a 20 group or he goes to NADA, comes back with all these great ideas, right? Tells everybody what we're going to do, and then never follows it up. And now what is it?
They did not embrace the licks it takes to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop.
They haven't even taken the paper off the Tootsie Pop.
You're right. They haven't even taken the paper off it. But hear this, and I love this, by the way, David. I think that's one of the best analogies I've gotten, as far as just like how to kind of maintain that mindset, but then really, what does it take to get something like this executed? But these are little things, but little things make huge impacts in our business. And little things like consistency will make huge impacts, things in like a good segue into our next topic, right, into like ASR closing percentages, right? It's never one big thing, because if it was one big thing, we'd all just fix it and move on. It's the little things that make these monster results and ultimately end up creating amazing customer experiences. But I do want to get into this because I think this is a great topic, and I'm very curious on how you kind of want to approach this. ASR closing percentages, very timely discussion. What are your thoughts?
So it goes back to my 4-step process that I strongly believe in, right?
Mhm.
Buy-in, so there's clarity on what a good job looks like. The job's in writing. There's a cadence of accountability, and there's a compelling scorecard. I bet most dealers in the country can't tell you what the advisor's ASR closing percentage is. So if something's not being measured, how will it ever be improved? Right? So I'll use the sales analogy. So if I have a salesperson that's taken 50 ups and sold 2 cars, there's a problem there, right? Is
Sure.
it the amount of, but where's the fix? The fix isn't in having them take less ups. What is it?
Improving the efforts to close more.
So that's the key to ASR closing percentage. So if I use the analogy of the sales side, it could be the up to demo ratio that needs to be fixed. It could be the demo to write up ratio that needs to be fixed. It could be the write up to close that needs to be fixed. But I can't fix the number of ups to the closing percentage until I know what part of it isn't working.
What stage isn't working? I dig that.
Same thing with ASR. It could go right back to the walk around. It could go to the way we're presenting. It could go, there's so many different things. But if I'm not measuring what we're doing, and there's no way then I can impact the results.
Exactly. When we're only measuring the results, right? Here's what I find our industry is pretty good about doing it. And I be honest, I did this myself occasionally as well. I call it full belly syndrome, where we talk more about what we have accomplished, not necessarily what we could have accomplished. And I think the reason for that, because there's no report out there that says that. If there was a report that said, hey, your shop should have made this much money this month, but here's how much you actually made. Anyways, I'd love to kind of get your thoughts kind of on that, of kind of how do we get out of that full belly syndrome and focus on what we should be able to accomplish, not what we just only have accomplished.
Have you ever heard this term, the truth shall set you free?
Yes.
Well, I add to that it'll piss you off first. So I think one is I need to identify what the truth is, and I need to see it not worse than it is, not better than it is, but for how it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Stack it based on what I believe a good job looks like. Wouldn't it make sense that somebody that's doing the job should know where they are relative to their contemporaries, relative to what the standards are? Like, I think there's all too many times people are walking around thinking they're getting the job done because they're not getting what?
Enough support?
Not enough feedback.
That's right.
Because we marginalize a lot of what we ask for. So are we sugarcoating and marginalizing, or are we clearly identifying this is the standard, this is what everybody's doing, and here's where you are? Like, wouldn't it make sense that somebody should know that and then know how to impact that? So I always say this, and then we can move on to the next topic. But I always say winners know the score. Have you ever heard me say that in any of my podcasts?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, well, I say that. I've said that for, 5 years. Well, I woke up a week or two ago. You'll be one of the first people to hear this, and I realized, oh my God, I'm wrong. That is not true. Any loser can walk off the battlefield, off the playing field, off the basketball court, look up at the score and say, holy crap, I'm getting my butt kicked. You don't have to be a winner to see the score. Real winners as leaders know what put the score there, but more importantly, how to impact it moving forward.
I love this, and I am going to find a little bit of a rabbit hole here, because since I got you on here, I really want to get your thoughts and opinions on this, because I look at things like closing percentages, and I wonder if one of the issues we're having, I know there's several, is because our pay plans are so focused on the results and not focused on the efforts necessarily to get to the results. Does that ultimately end up affecting, because that's kind of what you're talking about here, right? It's like the winner knows the efforts required to get to that win.
Yeah.
All right. And knows how to continue to execute the efforts required to that win. But I want to get your thoughts, because I want to expand a bit more on this and get your thoughts kind of on pay structures, and are they built, in that same type of mentality?
Well, here's the rabbit hole I would go down. I have a strong belief that the human beings crave significance. Like, that people really want to feel what?
Wanted, known.
Wanted, needed, valued, important. I don't think you can add a dollar sign to that, and I don't think it comes in the way of pay. Now, I'm not saying that pay doesn't matter, but if people are walking around feeling insignificant and uncertain, and I can give certainty through a guide, like a real clear cut, here's how you create certainty for you, which, by the way, is the thing that's missing in most people's hearts, by showing people where they are relative to where they need to be. That certainty, and then being able to put people on the pedestal, has nothing to do with pay, but everything to do with what makes people feel valued.
Yes.
Like, if people aren't walking around with their W-2 hanging off their neck, so, well, some people are, but like they have their big Rolex.
It's usually on their wrist, not on their neck. But yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's great. That makes them feel significant. That's perfect. But my job as a leader is to make sure everybody knows how valued they are, and make sure that everybody knows what the job is and how they're doing relative to that job. That's where significance comes from in my mind. So we can do that without changing pay, just by changing the focus.
Well, and speaking of kind of, the job and its requirements, and it's kind of a perfect segue kind of into our last topic today. And I love, by the way, that you've chosen this as a topic, because, I'm still surprised that I feel like I've been talking about this for like almost a decade, and we're still talking about it today. But, we're just talking about technicians doing video. And, we're talking about, and how that, I can see how all this connects, right? Consistency in executing, proper processes will bring additional profitability. Look, if we're doing proper walkarounds, if our techs are doing video, I'm not going to be surprised if our ASRs are closing at a higher percentage. Would you?
No, of course not. So, I think I hear the way you framed that question. And I go right to the boiling the frog philosophy. You know what that is?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I'm trying to get by the way, technicians are my favorite employees in the whole company. They're the most interesting, oftentimes the most difficult to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm never going to go back there and say, because I have the best technicians in the world. Like, I will hold my technicians and my number of master certified person to person, pound to pound, up to anybody. So I'm never going to go back there and say, now we're going to do videos, and if you don't want to do videos, you got to go. Yep. But I'm going to go in. My job, my service director's job, my service manager's job is to control the narrative and start to point out the evidence to support the belief, by the way, not manufactured, but real, that when we do, we get. So I don't know any technician out there that doesn't think advisors are weak. Do you?
No.
I mean, if you ask most technicians on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your advisor's closing skills? Most of them are going to say what?
A 10.
You think the technicians think their advisors closed?
Oh, no, sorry, the opposite. They think they're going to be horrible at it.
Most technicians, why bother doing a full MPI? Why bother doing an additional service request when our advisor can't close the door anyway?
Exactly.
Right? So that happens a lot, right? So if I can start controlling the narrative by saying, if you want to increase your odds of having your ASRs, the hard work that you went in to identify the opportunity that needs to be sold, if you want to increase your odds and you already know that the advisors need more training on how to sell, why don't you give them the tool they need that will close the deal even if they don't open their mouth? Right? All they have to do is not say anything and let the consumer watch the video, and it'll close the sale for you. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that if you've already identified? And then we control the narrative by technicians that do video, regardless of the ability of the advisor, close their ASRs at, and the technicians that don't do the video, regardless of the skill set of the advisor, close them at. How can you argue that as a technician on why video matters if I am, and my fixed ops director is controlling that narrative? You can't argue it. You just keep putting it in front of people. Here's what happens when we do it. Here's what happens when we don't. Here's what we do. Here's what we don't. And then next thing you know, people are like, they start drinking the Kool-Aid because why?
Because they're seeing the results.
Yeah, it's the best damn Kool-Aid in the marketplace.
Tastes really good.
The results are there. Like, I would never want somebody to do something just because I thought that it would produce the result. I want them to do it because what?
Because they think it's a good idea.
Well, and my job is to help them understand that it's a good idea, but I am always looking for ROT. Have you ever heard my acronym for ROT?
No, what is it?
Return on time.
Return on time.
I'm never going to ask you to do something that's going to take your time that won't give you a return on that time investment.
And you, I mean, look, as a technician, I can see the monster benefit in this, right? I mean, literally, the car's on my hoist. It's sitting right there. All right. Do I, I don't think a lot of advisors realize just the amount of time and effort it takes just to get the vehicle, put it up on the hoist, lift it up, start taking it apart, start diagnosing some of this stuff, right? Like, it's like, look, I'm already there. Let me shoot that quick 45-second video. All right. The car's, the hood's still open. It's still on my hoist. I can get the part in 15 seconds. Let's get it done, and who better to kind of be able to express that than the technician that literally got that hood open right there, So look, I think it benefits everyone, it definitely gives, your people a big boost just in empowerment, right? Because how often do technicians feel powerless because they're always kind of at the mercy of the advisor actually trying to translate or close what they've ultimately found. I mean, this really empowers them. Love to get your thoughts.
Well, it does give them their power back, and it also prevents them from being a victim, right? I keep recommending all this work that's not being closed. Well, now you don't have to be a victim anymore. And I wouldn't say it that way because it would offend most technicians. But have you ever heard a picture's worth 1,000 words?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, then a video's got to be worth 1,000,000.
At least,
so, right? And I've had technicians say everything from, I don't like my voice on camera or on video. I don't want to be on video. I don't know how to do video. I mean, every excuse in the book. But when a technician knows that taking that extra minute or two to create the video will do this to their pay, it makes a big difference.
It does.
So that's what I recommend. And I see that as impacting results more than any other one thing that we've started doing here in my company.
Well, and you know what? I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation today, but I mean, things like everything we've kind of discussed today can really be summed up in consistency, right? And that's the way it is. Look, we have to consistently process our way to profitability. And there's really kind of no other way around it. There's not a magic wand or an easy button anywhere. It's what we've talked about. It's just documenting that process. All right, finding a way to effectively measure that process and then consistently executing it. And I mean, David, like I said, we had a chance to talk a little bit before we started recording. I've interviewed over 1,300 people, and I'll tell you, one of the things I noticed in all of those interviews with the most uber successful people I've talked to is they just are consistent in whatever they do. Hey, any last thoughts real quick, David, before I let you go today?
Yeah, I think the last thought is something I told one of my coaching clients this morning. I'd rather have a C player that consistently executed than an A player that was inconsistent. So I don't think you have to be brilliant. I don't think you have to be incredibly talented to succeed at a high level, but I do know if you're not consistent, you won't.
100%. David, look, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to jam with today. Before I let you go, though, for everybody out there watching and listening right now who would love to connect with you and follow along with your journey, learn a little bit more, or what dates they can join the clubhouse, what's the best way to connect with you, David?
You can join me on Clubhouse every Friday morning. I have a all things used cars, which very seldom do we talk about used cars, but we're 155 episodes in. I also have a channel that's all things fixed operations, that we have 55 of those episodes. You can find me with the Pandemic of Positivity. That's a company that I have. I'm also a partner with Automotive State of the Union. If you went to SodaCon, I'm one of the investors there. Or you could simply call me on my cell phone, which is 919-610-2666. I'll do all I can to help you.
David, I admire, man, you so much. You're a total automotive rock star, and your willingness just to put yourself out there and say, "Look, I'll talk to you. Hell, here's my cell phone. Give me a taxi." Like just I look, dude. I love just how open and approachable you are, and I really do appreciate you taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a lot of fun for everyone out there watching and listening. Thank you. All right, and we appreciate you supporting the show. Everyone, have yourselves an amazing day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.